Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another day of some statistics. Today's lesson deals with comparing standard deviations. So go ahead and get this assignment out. I'm just going to do a couple of examples from it. And if I'm doing two, that's like 1/4 of your assignment already. So there's just a few things to talk about when dealing with standard deviations. And so let's dive right in. Let's go to 5 real quick. Put these datasets in your calculator of choice, whether you have a graphing calculator or using that decimals calculator, and get the mean and standard deviation for both and write them down. Pause the video, do it yourself, don't just wait for me to do it for you. Write it down. Alright, go ahead and check and see how you did. You should have gotten the same mean for both. They're both 512, but they have different standard deviations. And I wanted to pick this one just to kind of show you what standard deviation does and what it measures. And so if we look at these numbers, just kind of look at them real quick and kind of compare these data sets a little bit. This first one goes all the way from 120 to 90. And so it's got kind of a group of lower ones and it's got a group of higher ones. And if you compare that to this other one, this one goes from 300 to about 820, so that's not as wide. And these numbers here are pretty consistent here. They're pretty close together, about range, 250 there. Just these ones jump up a little bit. And what the standard deviation does is it's giving a measurement of how spread out the data is. You can almost think of it as the average distance from the mean, or like about how far are the numbers from the center. So on this one, the center's 512, which is about here, and on average, the other numbers are about 307 away. So if you take 500 and add 300, looking about 800-ish over there, and then over here, if you subtract 300 from 500, looking about 200-ish. And so either side of this, just the average distance from the average is about 300. That's not exactly what it is, but that's kind of gives you an idea of what it is. On this one, they're a lot more consistent. So consistent means they're similar to each other, staying the same. This one has a much smaller standard deviation, and so these numbers are more consistent. They're less spread out. And so that's the big idea behind standard deviation. And why you're doing this assignment is so you can notice that thing. If you have a higher standard deviation, the data set's more spread out. If you have a lower standard deviation, that means the data is less spread out. Standard deviation doesn't tell you where the center is, though. These happen to have the same center, 512, but this one could have had a center of 400 or 1,000 and have a smaller standard deviation. Like the data set would just be higher numbers, but more together. And so that's kind of the big lesson behind this assignment, what you're doing today. So on part A, what do you notice about their means? They are the same. And then on part B, what do you notice about the standard deviations? What does it tell you about their prices? Well, the store A has a higher standard deviation. I'm just going to call it SD. And it's almost double, really, the other one. Which means the prices are more spread out. Voila, lovely answer. Let's go to one more. It's going to be the last one there, number 8. Sally went to 2 different grocery stores and got data on their prices of food. She calculated mean and standard deviation for both, and they are as follows. So we got a mean of 5.25, standard deviation of 5.12, mean of 6.21, and standard deviation of 4.78. So we're comparing the prices of these grocery stores. You may notice they didn't give you the actual data set. They're just the means and the standard deviations. But let's go ahead and answer these questions. How do the means compare? Well, store S is almost a dollar more. Yeah. Has almost $1 higher mean. And then how do the standard deviations compare? Store S is has a lower standard deviation. And then the last part there, which store is better, quote unquote better? And this question is an opinion question, which means you get to decide which store you think is better. Do you think lower prices are better? Or do you think more consistent prices are better? I'm not going to be writing all this down, but I do want you to answer this question down here, even though I'm not going to write it down. Let me kind of share some of my thoughts as I look at these two averages and standard deviations and tell you what I notice. And so this average being 6.21 and standard deviation 4.78. In comparison to these ones, this is lower, but this is higher. And so if your average, if you're looking at a grocery store, is lower, that means the prices are lower on average as you go through your products. But the standard deviation being higher lets you know that the prices are more spread out, meaning that store H, while in general the prices might be lower, some of the things just might be more expensive than in store S. So maybe store S, if they have the exact same products, this one might have cheaper cereal, but it might have more expensive produce, things like that. Something else that I notice is if you have a higher average in a store, that can mean that it has more quality products. And then these lower standard deviation would mean that they're more consistently higher quality. And so it could be that store S is better, just it has more expensive products, but they're more consistent, and that means they're better products, so it's a quote-unquote better store. But store H might have the same products for a cheaper price, and they vary. And so there's a lot of things you can read into, and you can kind of decide what you want to, which one you think is better. Do you like your store to be consistent in prices, or do you want yours to be not as consistent? Do you want a lower average? Are you looking for just the cheapest products possible, or are you looking for perhaps higher quality? And this being more consistent doesn't necessarily mean it's higher quality. Like, we don't have a lot of information, but you can look at the data and just kind of decide what you would think in this situation and write about it here. And there you go. There's a couple examples from your assignment. It should be pretty quick. Good luck.